One of the things I love about the webinars series is that it really gives us a lot of flexibility. We're not tied to anything specific. So I thought, let's create a series. And I didn't want it to be too specific. I wanted it to be rather general. And so we thought about it and thought, all right, well, what if we just call the series Inspiration and Stylization? And so it combines two of the elements of photography that I think are really important, especially to us here at On One Software and to all of you there who use our products, and that's first inspiration, because really inspiration is what motivates us. It's what fuels us to go out every single day whenever we can in harsh weather and shoot. It gets us to look for things beyond the basic. Then stylization, and that's where you kind of take the what you had for inspiration in the field, and you apply your kind of creativity, your sense of imagination using the tools that you have at your disposal. So with that, what I thought was every month we would have a different theme. This month's theme is travel. We've already booked next month's theme, which is landscape. And then we'll continue on. Ryan thought a cool idea probably for April would be street photography, where Ryan and I, we go out and we just do our thing, and then we bring it back to share with you. So again, today's travel. We're going to kind of play off of each other. I have some images selected. Ryan's got some images selected, and we'll toss back and forth. With that, let's just start going ahead. Oh, Luis is asking about something in sports, concert, or wedding. Guess what? We're also going to have themes in sports, concert, and wedding as well. Thank you for the suggestion, Luis. It's open-ended. We weren't going to plan too much ahead, but absolutely, why not? We've got great teams here in Portland. Concert, Alan Hess is a friend from NAPP, and he just released a concert photography book. And wedding, God, we have tons of wedding photographer partners that we can glean off of. So, with that, let's go ahead here and let's just start. I've got my images here in Lightroom. I'll do one image, Ryan will do an image, and lather, rinse, repeat. Now this is a bracketed series of images. I took this at whatchamacallit. I'm totally drawing it's Italy, I know that much. Someone's going to tell me right now. Please, someone tell me, where am I standing here? It's going to bother me now. I just had it. Well, it's beautiful wherever it is.
You can make up something in Italian and we'd believe it.
Yeah, we're in Bibita Boppity. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bracket. And I'm showing you why I'm bracketing. Because if we go to one of the standard examples here, where we're trying to get an overall exposure, you can see that we've blown out the sky. Yeah, keywords would help, Dave. Sorrento, that's what it is. I just remembered. It's Sorrento. And what I need to do is I want to get all the detail in the skies plus the detail in the shadows. And so if you look at all the brackets that we have here, we've got the highlight brackets for the sky. And we're going to kind of start going through here. And you can see what we're doing. We're getting all this detailed information. So you see what we're doing. Now what I'm going to do is really quickly, I'm just going to send these images to Photomatics. I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about how I do what in Photomatics. We actually did a webinar last week on HDR, and I don't want to spend too much time. I want to go actually into the stylization. And while I'm talking about stylization, I'll tell you about, as far as, for me, the inspiration of this. So I'm going to export this out, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the ghosting artifacts. Right here, and I'm going to select this first option with selective deghosting tool. So I'm going to hit export, and what that's going to allow me to do is kind of fix the people moving. If you noticed on the bottom right, there were these people, kind of tourists, kind of like me, who were moving. So I'm going to kind of zoom in rather into the image, and you can see them right here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around them, right click and mark it as a selection, and then do the same thing here. Actually, before I do that, let's preview what the deghosting looks like for them. So that's looking pretty good. It snaps them into place. I'm going to make another selection over here around this person, because if you really zoom in, you can see how they're just moving. They were moving from frame to frame. And so what I want to do is kind of make a better selection. But I want to lock them in place. it doesn't really matter because I'm going to probably end up masking them out. That actually works out nicely because in this frame, the person wasn't there. So I'm going to hit OK, and now it's going to use the information from one of the raw brackets to help reduce the ghosting. So here's my image. You can see right off the bat, this is the reason why I love HDR, because it allows me to recall some of the highlight information without really ruining the image. You can see down here, the people are perfectly still. They're not ghosted because we sampled from one of the raw brackets. What I'm going to do though is I'm going to bring out some of the luminosity, some of the color or detail contrast, and some of the gamma, just to make it a bit brighter, not too much brighter. And then let's hit save and re-import. So if we take these two images right here, this one, and we compare them, I think it's hard to kind of argue why HDR doesn't have a place in photography, because look at this. I mean, it's very, very comparable in terms of overall detail. So what we're going to do is let's start stylizing. Before we do, though, what I want to do is just kind of go into detail about, you know, the motivation, the inspiration of this shot. So this roadway here leads up from the beach where I was on a ship for 2 weeks doing a photography. I was there for an assignment for Kelby Media, and we were living on a ship, and the ship was touring the coast of Italy. So we stopped at Sorrento, and we took a car up, like a taxi up this hill to get to the top of the city. And I remember when I was driving, I noticed this curve in the road. And pretty immediately, I knew I wanted to shoot it, and I knew I wanted to shoot it with a fisheye lens. You know, when you're shooting, one of the things you really want to do is know what gear you have, know what it can do to give you a unique shot. I have no doubt in my mind that this particular scene has been shot 1 trillion times, probably with fisheye lenses, but you know, it's all about kind of adding your own flair to it, your own style, and that's what I wanted here. So I actually jumped out of the taxi right around here, let the rest of the group go on. I told them I'd meet them up at the top because there's actually, this is actually a very, very tall wall that you climb up, and there's a staircase. It's a pretty steep staircase, but it was one of those things where the effort was worth the reward. It was a blazingly hot day, and I was able to kind of get here. The only people here were these two people, and then there was no traffic, so I was really appreciative of that. And sometimes it's kind of, when you're traveling, you know, we were in Sorrento. I don't live on Sorrento. I don't, you know, have ready access to this area. If you see something that when you're traveling that you think you want to get, just do it. Stop the car, get out, do what you need to do, but get the shot, because more likely than not, you will not have access to it. So with that, the time now is to stylize. So I'm going to send this image to Perfect Effects. I'm going to go to File, Plug in Extras, and send it to Perfect Photo Suite, and we're going to start processing it. Don't need to do that. All right, so here we are. I'm going to send the image to Effects, and it's basically now a matter of imagination. What do you want to do here? I know for a fact that there's a lot of foliage here which I want to bring out, and so I can do that if I go to the Photo Filters category and go to the Green Enhancer. I find this comes in very useful a lot, and see how it really only targets the foliage. So when I bring any effect in, usually I'll drop it to 0%, and then I'll bring it up slowly, because I don't want it to be too much, but it really makes it stand out really nicely. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Add to commit that effect. And for me, you know, what I like to do is play this road off of the rest of the scene. To do that, I'm going to do it like basically this. The first thing I want to do is apply whichever effect will hit most of the scene. And for me, that would be under Movie Looks, and it's an effect called Thermopylae. Now, when I apply Thermopylae, I'm going to drop that down to 0, and then bring it up slowly. I like what Thermopylae is doing to accentuate the greens in the image. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my masking brush, I'm going to paint it out of the sky, and again, I'm not going to be very, very neat with my masking because I don't want to take up too much time. I don't want to give Ryan his opportunity. want to bring up my mask just to make sure that I didn't miss any areas in the middle here. And I'm also going to mask out the road. So I think you're going to start to see where I'm going with this. You see how the road is returning to that kind of bluish color. And so all I'm going to do here is mask that out. Now, the reason why I use the fisheye lens is because the Canon 15mm fisheye, and I believe Sigma makes one for Nikon, has especially in a full-frame sensor, has a massive amount of radial distortion. And so I look for anything that has any natural circular characteristics to it, and that's pretty much what dictates which lens I'll use. So for this, because this road was so circular, I put the fisheye lens. I actually have another shot. I was going to use it originally, but I thought this was more compelling. I have another shot taken standing right over here where the road just takes up the entire frame. It's pretty cool, but I found this to be more interesting to the eyes. So we've got the sky, we've got the road masked out, and now it's time to hit add, because I want to accentuate the road and the sky a bit. And I'm going to do that by going to under movie looks. I think there was one that looked good, was Cyberpunk. And I'll show you what I'm going to do here. I'm going to apply it to the whole layer, drop it down to 0, bring it up just a tiny bit, about 20%. Now what I want to do is take the mask that I created on the thermopylae layer and apply it here. So I can do this. I'm going to go to the thermopylae layer, go to masking, copy mask. So that copies the mask. Now I'm going to go to Cyberpunk, go to masking, paste mask. So what it does is it applies Cyberpunk to everything except for the sky and the road, which is the opposite of what I want. So I'll go to masking and invert mask. So now what I'm able to do is kind of bring out the blue of the road and the sky, because what we did was we used the old mask. And you can see how I need to refine this a bit. If I take the masking brush, we have a little bit of hard edge here that I want to paint in, just to make sure it's even. And then the last thing I'll do is add a slight tonal contrast to the lower half of the scene. So I'm going to go to Tone Enhancer. That adds texture to the scene. I'm going to bring up that local contrast a bit. I'm going to bring up the contrast overall, and I'm going to bring up the shadow recovery to bring out the shadows. Now I'm going to drop the overall strength to 0, bring it up slowly, about 37%, and then I'm going to make sure that with my masking brush, I'm set to paint out, and I'm going to remove that sharpness from the sky. I don't want the sky to be textured. In fact, I need to go ahead and remove those dust spots. But you can see here, if we do the before and the after, let me just kind of hide the effects bar. To do a before and after, you just hit Command-P on a Mac or Control-P on a PC. That's our before. That's our after. We're kind of accentuating things. I actually remembered one last effect that I want to do is a glow. I'm just going to take glow, do a deep forest glow, because it's going to add a little of a ethereal feel. Drop it to 0, bring it up a little bit, and there we go. Hit apply. And if I wanted to, I could have saved that as a preset. I should have done that. Here's the image. What I could do now is, if I wanted to, I can use the retouch brush in perfect layers to kind of get rid of those dust spots. I find this a lot easier to use than Lightroom's spot healing brush, because I can draw. And then hit save.
You'll have to go back into your recently used and save that back out as a preset.
That's true.
And that's one of the great things about Perfect Effects is if you do something like Brian just did, where you apply it and you're like, oh man, I wish I would have saved that. Perfect Effects records the last, what is it, 7 or 9? Yeah, 7 times you've gone through Perfect Effects and you've hit apply. And so you can go back through and you can take a look at those, and you can use that to, you'll get the same previews like you do with the other effects, and you can jog your memory on which one you were looking for, and then you can actually grab that and then save it out as a preset.
Yep. I remembered why I decided to keep the people in here right now, and it's because they give a matter of scale. So there's perspective here. You see how tiny these people are on average. This person might be around 5'3" to 5'4", and it just shows just how large these walls were. So with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass control over to Ryan. You should see his screen in a second, and he's going to go over some images as well.
All right, thanks, Brian. So I'm going to grab one of my images from when I was over in Europe, and I'm going to, what I'll do is I'll send it over to the suite, and we can look at it a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm using Lightroom here just like Brian was. So I'll go to the File, Plug in Extras menu here, and send it over to the Perfect Photo Suite. Now where this image comes from is a little town called Hallstatt in Austria. And it's a really, I've just got great memories of this town. In fact, the train station where it drops you off is over on the other side of the lake. And the only way to get here is actually by boat. And you can actually kind of see the boat coming over. Actually on the edge of that. I actually never noticed that before until I was just talking about that. But,
Really?
But yeah, it's a really fun place to be in. Just one of the inspirations with this whole webinar series, and specifically the travel, is I think Brian and I both would agree that it's a travel photography it's a unique type of photography, and it's a lot of fun because it helps not only for you to remember where you were and the sights and the sounds and the smells that you remember, but it's really trying to convey that to somebody that wasn't there. And I think that's really the really what you're trying to do at the end of the day is show somebody where you were and how amazing and how cool it was, and kind of the feeling that was going on at the time. So having said that, what I'm going to do to this is we'll go into Perfect Effects. So again, I'll just come up here to my tabs and choose Perfect Effects. And we'll start going in and we'll manipulate this. Now, as Brian was saying, really once you're inside Perfect Effects here, it's whatever your imagination is, whatever direction you want to go. For this specific shot, I'm going to keep it fairly natural and just more enhance the image and some of the things that I want to do. So the first thing is I'm going to go over here to the Movie Looks category, and I'm going to choose I Got the Blues right here. So I'll go ahead and select that, and now you can see I get this this blue hue over the entire image. So what I want to do is I actually want to come over and I'll grab my brush here. I'm going to choose to invert this effect. So it inverts it, flips it around, and now you can't see it anymore. And instead, now I'm just going to paint that in. And what I'm choosing to do here is I want to paint it on the water here. So you can see it shows a really nice bright blue. Now I'll tone this down here once I get it painted in. Let me kind of reduce this down here a little bit. And as Brian was doing in his photograph as well, I'm not going to go and try to get this perfect, but we'll get just a decent job here, just so we're not taking up all your time showing you how to paint something in, because I know that anybody that's doing anything with editing for a while knows how that goes. It's pretty straightforward, pretty easy. So I'll just finish this off just right here, and that'll be good enough, because again, I'm not going to be doing this at full strength either. So here, I'm going to just sneak right back in there. I'm going to choose this effect here and then drop the opacity on it, or the strength. And so I start down at 0, and then I'm just going to creep it up just a little bit, even just doing something like 6 or 7. Let's go up to, now 12 is too far. So we'll just back that on down, do something like 8 right in there. So you can just see that kind of before and after, and it just adds a nice, cool tone overall to that water. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is hit Add. And that's going to commit that layer, and it gives me a new empty layer to play with and start to choose another effect. So I'm going to create a tone enhancer out of this, and I'm in the Advanced tab, so it allows me to go into some of these advanced techniques of the Perfect Effects. And so I go down in here, and then you have these drop downs, and what this actually allows you to do is you can now create your own effects from scratch. And so I'll do that using the Tone Enhancer category. So I'll go ahead and click on that, and you can see it really just gives an extra pop to that image. And it's a little sharp, little contrasty for me, so I'm going to drop that down just a little bit. But I like overall what it's done. It's given me some nice pop, and I might even bring that up just a little bit more. And so next what I want to do is similar to what Brian was doing. Whenever there's green foliage, I really think it's our green enhancer effect is a great one to use because it just pops those greens. It's very quick, very easy. So you're going to find that one when you go over into the photo filters. So I'll hit Add here and get a new blank layer for myself. come over here to the photo filters, and a quick thing, it's pretty easy to figure out, but they're all alphabetical order too. And so, and if you're somebody that hasn't used the Perfect Effects before, as you sit here and hover over one of the effects, it actually is going to give you a preview of what that's going to look before you apply it. And so let me, like this green enhancer, for example, as I sit there and hover, if I can leave my Wacom pen still enough here. And that's the problem. The Wacoms are too good. I moved my hand ever so slightly, but it gives you a mid-sized preview of that. But what I'll do is I'll choose that green enhancer, and you can see that's those are some crazy trees. I think if you saw those, you'd want to run the other way because there's something in the water. But what I'll do here is, just like everything else, bring it back down to 0, and then just inch it up from there. Because once you do that, you can get more of a natural perspective on what you're actually doing. And for this as well, I'd keep it fairly low, maybe just right around that 20 range. But we get a nice pop there out of the trees. And then what I'm also going to do here is take it over and give it just a quick glow using the deep forest. And so I'll click on my glow category here, head right on back here, and I'll click on that deep forest. And when deep forest is really applied heavily, it really gives you that dreamy look, and it's kind of darkening some of those shadows, darkening some of those colors. But I don't really want that glow on it, but I do want to kind of darken it just a little bit. So I'm just going to take it and just increase it just a little bit. So we'll keep it in very low amounts. Again, I'm at 16 here. And so when you combine all those together, again, hitting the Command P or Control P, you get a nice before, and then we've got our after. So it's a nice natural pop, and this is probably more, again, in tune with kind of more of a natural style. We're not going off the wall with how this looks, but it just kind of really bumps everything up and gives it a nice boost. And so what I can also do is I can take this and I can go ahead and click on my blur, and it's going to apply all that stuff that I did and take me on over into focal point. And what I'll do here is I'll throw a quick blur on this. And the great thing about focal point is, if you don't have a lens with you at the time, or maybe you don't even own the lens, you can actually change the look based upon really the lenses that we have, and you can create your own as well. So for example, when I come in here, wherever I place this focal bug, I get my focus. And so I'm going to come over here and change my shape from round to planar. And by doing that, I now have a flat plane. And this is the shape that I find most often that I'm using. And so what I'm going to do here is just stretch it out just like so. And I'm going to go for a tilt shift lens effect. And of course, I didn't shoot this with a tilt shift lens at the time, so it's great. You can kind of cheat a little bit there. Again, you don't have those lenses with you, or you don't even own them. I'm going to take the blur amount down here, and I just want to just knock out the focus here just a little bit. And now you can see that we've got a nice graduation here. And I'm going to bring this down just a little bit, just like so. And it really brings the eye, by taking the top out of focus and the bottom, it brings the eye into the image here. And if I want this steeple, it's getting just a little bit of that blur. So it's very easy for me to come in here and grab my brush. And what I'll do is I'll take, and I'm just going to scroll on down here, and I'm going to paint focus, but I'm going to drop my brush opacity down pretty far because I don't want to be too harsh with this. So then I just come right in here, and I might even just slim this down just a little bit, and then just paint this right back into focus. So I have a nice sharp image. And because that opacity is down, I'm going to go ahead and just go over that just a few times. But I'd rather do that than go ahead and just crank that opacity up and just carve it right out to where it's not going to look very good. And then, of course, to finish this off, some of the things that you can do in here is add brightness and contrast inside a focal point. I'm going to choose to add a vignette. So I'm going to do that by coming right over here and just dropping this down just a little bit just to darken those edges and really kind of bring, again, some of that focus in on that the center of this image, which is what I'm going for. So again, I've got my before, and this is before after effects, but before our focal point, and then we have the after. So that's a great thing that you can do, and I find myself using that focal point all the time to really enhance what you're going for with that artistic vision there. But what I'll do here is I'll pass the mic back on to Brian Mattiche here, and he'll go through another one of his images.
Yep. Before I do, and that's awesome, Ryan. Ryan and I were kind of going through selecting our images last week for what we wanted to use for this webinar, and you're in for a treat with the stuff that he's got. I see a question by my buddy Ron, who's asking if the focal point focus bug can be set to planar by default. Right now the answer is no, Ron, but I can tell you for a fact that I submitted that request a little while ago, and it was approved. So that feature is coming, where you'll be able to set, instead of it being round, it'll be default planar. But for now, you can't do it. Ian asked a question I want to clarify, because I think Ian, you're mistaking something. Ian was saying that we're typically using the masking brush instead of using Perfect Mask. Is there any particular reason for that? Perfect Mask is a different function of masking here. When you would use Perfect Mask, or Ryan would use Perfect Mask in this image if he wanted to remove the background, the mountains and the trees along the background. What we're using the masking brush for in Perfect Effects is to remove an effect from a certain area. So that's kind of how it goes. Steve asked a great question, kind of piggybacking on Ron's, about how about setting a planar bug as a preset. Yes, you can absolutely do that. So with that, I'm going to take control. It's a great question. What I want to do is move on to another image. Let's go to image number 2. So again, this is another image, except instead of Italy, I was in Montreal, Canada. Now, I gotta say, I don't know how many Canadians are on the webinar right now, but I love your country and I love your people. And the reason for that is, this right here, in case you don't, this is in Montreal. This is the Royal Bank of Canada, RBC. And, I used to be in the financial industry years ago, and I can tell you RBC is a very respectable bank and custodial company. When I went here, I was just walking around by myself, and it was a Saturday, and I remembered the bank was wide open, and I walked in with my tripod over my shoulder with my camera, and that was I walked in through these doors, and I walked to the security guard, and I just asked him, can I take photos? Because as you can see, the architecture is absolutely beautiful. And he just looked at me as if he was more bothered that I was interrupting him reading his magazine than anything. He's like, yeah, sure. And so I basically walked around the bank. It was closed except for the ATM that they had kind of like right over here. But I said, okay, and I just continued going. Now, again, this is another example where HDR is so important, where tone mapping is so important, because you kind of lose all the information through it was a really bright day. And so if we go through the brackets, you can see what I have here. I'm just going to cycle through. Now, here's the best part. My favorite thing about this is that the security guard really didn't move at all through the through the brackets, and this longest bracket was 25 seconds. Homeboy sat here still for 25 seconds.
He was just trying to work with you on the image there.
He knew what I was doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think he's a photographer himself.
Yeah, he heard the bracket, so he's like, I'm going to stand perfectly still. So, I mean, this was really impressive. Not only the 25 seconds, but the 13 seconds before it, the 6 seconds before that, the 3 seconds. So it was to my benefit. And so, again, we're just going to repeat the process right now, and I'm going to tone map the image so that we could, I'm going to turn off the ghost reduction because we don't need it. But I do want to get kind of a good baseline image. Yeah, I don't know, Ian, what kind of book he was reading, but he was engrossed. All right, so let's go ahead here and start working with the image. I'm going to go quickly again. I'm going to drop the detail contrast down and bring up, drop the luminosity, bring up the gamma, which is the overall brightness, drop the black point. I'm looking at my histogram while I'm doing this, because what I'm looking for is just an overall even exposure. You can see we've got beautiful detail in the ceilings. Look at the security guard. I mean, he's just totally still. It's pretty awesome. And so when I'm here, let me drop the white point down a bit. I don't want it to be too hot. And then let's hit save and re-import. So once again, we're going to compare two images together. This one or this one and this one. Let's compare them. I always like to do this with HDR. So you can see the difference between the before and the after. You see all the detail in the beautiful architecture. You see the detail outside. We can bring back some of that shadow detail. So we'll do that right now in the suite. So let's turn off the lights out and the compare mode and take the image, and just like before, we'll send it to the suite. Now, I want to go aggressive with this. I'm going to definitely get a little grungy with this. So let's go ahead and go to Effects. And the first thing I'm going to apply is, I think, Grunge Goddess. Under the Movie Looks category, there's an effect called Grunge Goddess. And so you can see what it does overall. It gets very, very harsh, which I'm okay with, except not that harsh. Bring it to 0 and bring it up a bit. And you can see it's just bringing out all the detail in those tiles up on the ceiling, which is gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and take my masking brush, and I'm just going to remove the effect from Homeboy over here. And then let's bring it up, because I don't want him to get too dark. Now let's hit Add to get that going. I'm trying to think here what I want to do, because what I want to play off of this brickwork. I really do like the brickwork. And so I might try something like, I'm just thinking right now, what would be a good effect? Oh, Moulin Rouge could be good, but probably in a small amount. Yeah, very, very small amount. Bring it down to 0, bring it up. And the last thing that I want to do is add a glow. I'm telling you, for the money, Deep Forest is one of my favorite glows. Bring it to 0 and then just bring it up a bit, and it just adds such a beautiful richness to the image. I'm pretty happy with this, actually. So what I will do is, I'm trying to think if there's anything else I should do. I might go to focal point, but I really don't think I want to, because I want the whole image to be in focus. You know what I can do? Let's paint lines down the stairs. So basically what I want to do is I want the eye to start over here and paint through. So I'm going to hit Add. I'm going to add a color and tone effect called Lighter. And I'm going to brighten the whole image up. So I'm going to actually make it even brighter. Now, I'm going to turn this effect into a brush by taking the masking brush, bringing up the inspector, inverting it, and I'm going to paint at full strength and at full layer opacity, kind of through here. So I'm just brightening the stairs up, and I'm going to lead it pretty much to him. Now what I can do is I'm going to drop the strength down to 0 and just bring it up a tiny bit. And then I'm going to repeat the process with darker. I'm going to add this effect, and I'm going to go to the darker effect, bring the brightness down, and then exactly just like before, take the masking brush, invert it, and then at full strength I'm going to paint along the sides here. I'm just gonna, I don't mind painting through the banister either. Now I can take that from 0 and just bring it up a bit. And what we're doing is we're helping to draw the eye through the center of the frame. And that's something that I think is really important with photography, when you're stylizing, is to kind of give the eye some visual cues of where to start and where to end. Now in terms of this whole travel tip, I'll tell you something. You know, I wasn't going to mess around with a bank. You know, banks are banks. You know, we should kind of respect that. There's an armed security guard. But it never hurts to ask. I was in Canada. It was like my second or third time in the country. And if I had just assumed, you know, gone with my Northeast U.S. Paranoia and my skepticism, I would have just walked in, saw he was there, and walked out. But I figured, what, you know, what's the harm? I'll just go ahead and ask him, and he was totally cool. So you never really want to, you know, just assume. Just ask. You can, or don't ask. You can just start shooting and just take your chances. But give it a shot. There's nothing worse than just missing the shot. There's nothing to show for it. So with that, I'm going to quickly just show you the before and the after. That was our before, and then we kind of made some drastic changes after, but I really like what it gave it a pretty gothic feel here.
Hey, Brian, we got a quick question here that I thought was a good one while you're talking about all this. Is somebody's asking they said, you're always lining up your images and they look like they're right on.
Mm-hmm.
It looks like everything's perfect. Are you getting that in the shot, or are you getting that afterwards, tweaking it and getting it all aligned, or is that part of the lenses and everything that you're working with?
Thanks to whoever asked that.
It was William.
Hey, William. Yeah, this shot was taken with my baby. It's the Canon 17mm tilt shift lens, and the reason why I got a tilt shift lens was because when I was doing commercial architecture, everything had to be straight. So these are kind of rectilinear lines, meaning they're perfectly straight. It may look weird to most people, but this is actually perspectively correct. This is what the image looks like. So you achieve this using shifting of a lens. And so that's how I got this to be straight. I had the camera on a tripod, had the live view on, and then I just used the built-in bracket lines, the grid view, to kind of make sure that my lines were vertically straight. So you can do it in software as well, using Lightroom or Photoshop. Once again, a preset that I could have saved that I'll go back to later.
Yeah.
And I'll hit save. And then, Rye, I think you want to do one more?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of piggyback on one of the things that Brian's been mentioning, I think the biggest thing for me, especially in travel photography, but even when you're out and about just taking your shots, always get the shot, even if you don't know, even if it's not perfect lighting, you're not exactly sure if you'll come back. Because so often what I've made the mistake of doing is, oh, that's not perfect lighting, but I'm pretty sure we're coming back this way. Or, when we come back at the end of the day, I'll get that shot later. And 9 times out of 10, I don't end up coming back that same way. The light's not there. So I guess my point is, if you see something that intrigues you, you see something that you like, take that shot. And then even if you do come back, it's all digital, right? So it's all free film. And so you can retake the shot again. So I do that especially a lot during the sunset shots if I'm out somewhere. And you're like, well, I'll just wait till the sun gets a little lower. You never know. Take your shots, because as Brian said, if you take those shots and you don't end up going back, or you don't get a second chance at it, well, you still have those initial ones that you took to play with. So that's it's a small thing, but I almost have to force myself to do that now, even when I'm out just taking everyday shots. Just do it now, because you might not get the chance again. So what we're going to do is we'll spin the globe, and then we'll stick our finger on India, and we'll travel over there. And so I'm going to take this image here, and we'll jump into the suite. So again, we'll go from Lightroom through plugin extras, perfect photo suite.
When we were kind of constructing this image last week, I was so excited because I love what Ryan and will be doing to this image. It just looks awesome. So
the kind of short story behind this is, obviously in the background that is the Taj Mahal, and where I'm taking the picture from is the Red Fort of Agra, and this is all in the town of Agra, right there where the Taj Mahal is. And so if you ever get a chance to go there, sure, Taj Mahal is fantastic. Go check it out. It is a beautiful site, and it's got amazing history. But this is also another very cool fort that they had, and these were supposed to be these were intended to be sister forts back when the kings and the rulers had more money than they knew what to do with. So, but I like this shot where it's kind of this palace or fort looking on into the Taj Mahal. So let's go ahead and click on the effects there. And again, loads up really quick, and then we're getting our previews or our thumbnails of what it's going to look for each one of these. Now, when I was shooting all over India, it is always hazy. You're never going to get a clear day. I would get up at the crack of dawn to shoot first light, and it would still be just thick and smoggy and muggy. So a great effect to break through some of that is you just come right over here, and I'm going to click on the tone enhancer again. So I use the drop down in the advanced tab here, click on my tone enhancer, and you can see that just snaps that image right into place, and it really just gives me a little contrast, gives me a little extra vibrancy. It's nice, it's vibrant, and it's clean. So it's a great starting point for us. So the other thing that I want to do is you can see right here this sky was pretty boring. It's just a flat blue sky. So what I'm going to do is I actually want to come over and I'm going to add this layer right here. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on, go to my textures, and I want to add some clouds to this. And there's different ways that you can do it, but I'll click on the textures tab right there, and then we can just scroll right on through. And I'm going to choose dark clouds right here. So I'll click on that dark clouds, and then it adds those dark clouds all over. So what we're going to do, the first thing is we're going to drop this down here with the opacity. So we're going to drop it down just like so, maybe just a little bit more, because what I'm going for is a realistic look here. I'm not going for really that composite look. And then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a little masking here. So I'll grab my masking bug, I'll set that down, and I'm going to just stretch this out just like so. And then what this is going to do is it's going to hide the effect wherever I place this. So I'm going to bring this right on down, about to the edge of my horizon line. And if I increase this up, you can see that it's going into the building and all these various objects over here. So what I'm going to do is grab my brush for masking, and I'll make sure that I'm set to paint out here, which I am. And then I can just go through and I can just paint this right off of this building here. So I'll just do a quick job here.
Yeah, you see something like this simple texture, the dark clouds, it's so fantastic to fill in a boring sky. Now Ryan hit the point home. He just did it. All he did was drop the strength down. Can you bring that to 100%? Mm-hmm. So at 100%, when you bring it in, you might get gun shy and be like, why would I want to use this? That's the key. If you can bring it back to where you were, you're not really trying to slam the person over the head with, oh, there are clouds. It's more just it breaks up a solid white sky.
Exactly. So now that we have that, the dark clouds in there, what I'm going to do is I want to add another texture on top of this, but I'm going to wait until I do it after focal point. And I'll explain that when I come back here into the Perfect Effects and we add that texture. But for right now, a quick, easy way to jump over into focal point from the Perfect Effects is to come over here and just click on the blur. So it's going to take all of those effects that we've done, that tone enhancer and adding that sky, and it's going to send us right over into focal point. So again, we start off with our focal bug, and I always like to reset this. So you can do the Command Option Z or Control Option Z, or come right in here to the focal point, and you can just choose to do the edit and reset all there as well. So either or, but that's something that I do every time. Now, just like we've been doing, I'm going to come over here and use the planar lens. And I'm actually going to use multiple focal bugs on this. And so I'm going to come over here, and I want to stretch this out just like so. And I want to bring this right over, and I want to get, just using my feather, just fade this in just a little bit here. So I'm going to smooth that transition, but what I'm also going to do is take the amount of blur down quite a bit. So I'm going to take this amount and drop it down just a little bit here. And what I want to go for is I want you to be able to see it just a little bit, but I don't want it to be so blurry that you don't even know what's in the background, but just kind of take it out of focus just a little bit there. So let me just bring that right on over here. Whoops. Just like so. And now if I want to use a second focal bug, I can. So I come over here and I click on this plus sign, and now I've got another focal bug that I'm able to use. What I'm going to do is come over here, and I have my second focal bug, and I'm going to flip it right around just like so. And then I'm going to place it right down here at the bottom. So now what that's doing is it's giving me nice kind of focus right down in here, and then you can see it gradually start shifting away. And again, what I'm going for here is realism. I don't want this to look like something that's totally canned out of Photoshop, and that gets into a different look. That gets into more of a composite look, and what I'm trying to do is just enhance the photograph. So again, the before and after on this is we have our before, and then we have our after, just like that. So what I'll do is I'll hit apply, and it's going to take me back into perfect layers. And then from the perfect layers, I'm going to grab this focal point layer. This is the newest one that we have. And then I'm going to go back into effects, and I want to add one more effect. Now, some of you are probably going, well, why didn't you put that effect in there when you were in Perfect Effects the first time? It's a great question. Because if I were to put a texture, which is what I'm going to be using here, a texture into this photograph and then went into focal point, some of that texture would be blurry and some would be in focus. And it really wouldn't look right. And so now we're going to put that texture over the top of everything, which is going to look, again, a lot more natural and it makes more sense to the eye. So we'll go over here to the textures. And by the way, we've got a lot of really cool textures in here that you're able to use. And of course, you can use backgrounds and textures that you have on your own and blend those in using the perfect layers as well. So I'm going to go down here to the end because I know what I'm looking for is down here. And I'm going to use this rice paper light. So I'm going to go ahead, click on that. And I really like the way that this looks. However, I have this border that I don't want. And so very simply, I can come over here, and now I have all the options for this texture. So I can come in to the scale slider, and I can just bump it up just like so. So I'm just scaling it just so it gets rid of that border, and I want it to get just the texture overall with everything. And then what I'm going to do on top of this is you can actually change the blending modes here inside of this effect. So I'm going to come in, and you'll also notice that as I roll over these, that changes as well. So I'm going to choose darker, and it's just a little too dark for my taste. So what I'm going to do is take that strength and then just bring it back just like so. Maybe about half looks pretty good. And then when it's all said and done, I can go ahead and hit apply. And then it's going to take and it's going to give me another layer back inside of Perfect Layers. So if you want to get a good comparison of what we've been doing here, we have our before, which is our original image, and then we have the after. So this is another one. It was a lot of fun to work with, but it really, I think, goes well with the theme of the photograph, and there's just a lot of options that you're able to work with here. So did you want to try to do one more, Brian, or are we running low on time here?
I'll bust through one really quickly. Let me see if I hope it doesn't crash.
And I saw a question earlier in the webinar. Somebody asked, well, how do you save that back? Go ahead and just hit the Save button in the bottom right-hand corner, and that'll bring you, it'll take your image back to wherever you started. So whether that's from Lightroom or if that's, from Photoshop or wherever it is, again, that you started.
Yep. So I'm going to do this image here quickly, and a few points I want to make. Also, there was a question earlier about, Andrew was asking if you can import your own textures into the texture section of the suite. The short answer, Andrew, is no. You can't put, right now we don't support people taking their own texture files and putting them in the effects bar. However, what Ryan was saying was that you can just go into Perfect Layers, and then if you have a texture file, if you go to, and I'll show you in a second, but you could go to File, Add Layer from File, and then you could point to your texture file.
And you could even show them a lot of the backgrounds and textures that we have included inside of Perfect Layers.
That's right. That's actually a great point. I'll do that right
now. And
that's
the easiest, quickest way. So a lot of you might not even know you've got a lot of that already inside of Perfect Layers, because a lot of those we've preloaded into the software already.
Yep. And let's do that in a second. The point of this image, so this is the Notre Dame in Paris, France. I took this in like 2004. Yeah, September 5th, 2004. This was with my original Digital Rebel and the Canon EFS 10-22. So this was a long, long time ago. It was my first time ever leaving the U.S., and so I was just amazed at everything. Now, the thing that I want to, obviously, beautiful architecture is easy, to talk about with travel photography, but one of the points that I want to make was I don't know how many of you are out there have a stockpile of images that you took from years ago that probably are sitting there collecting dust. You probably never even got to them. For me, I just found this image 15 minutes before the webinar started. I was thinking, all right, in my life, where did I go? When did I go there? And so France was 2004. I went to that catalog here at work, and I saw this image, and I was like, oh man, this is kind of cool. I never actually worked on this before. So this is fresh. I have an idea of what I'm going to do, but it's quick. The first thing I'm going to do before anything is I'm going to take this to the develop module of Lightroom because I want to fix the lens correction. You can see it's kind of it has a little barrel distortion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my distortion slider in Lightroom and I'm going to drag it to the right just a bit. And then I'm also going to have this checkbox selected called Constrain Crop, which will automatically crop the image in for me. I'm also going to, let me do it a little bit more. There, that's looking good. So you can see the before and the after. What I might also do is just rotate it just a little bit. Okay, so we've got this image here, again, taken years and years ago, and I'm going to send it to the suite. So plug in extras, Perfect Photo Suite. So first what Ryan was saying was, you may or may not know this, but if you own the suite, you already have a collection of textures and skies and stuff that we included. If you go to File and then Browse Backgrounds, it'll automatically open up these folders. So you can see under Skies, there are skies over here. These are skies that we took in-house, and we just kind of gave them to On1. Same thing, we've got indoors. So if you want to mask someone on one of these indoor shots, and then we also have kind of gradients.
The inside, the studio backdrops are great as well. If you're somebody that's shooting seniors, babies, portraits, I mean, this is just there's a lot of those backdrops to throw people against.
Yeah, and they're all included. If you feel free to use them. We're kind of giving them out. They're rights managed in terms of you don't have to worry about it. You can use them as you see fit. Just kind of our way of saying thanks for supporting the suite. So I'm going to go ahead, though. I'm going to go to Perfect Effects. And I'm going to do exactly what Ryan did first. I'm going to go to Textures, Dark Clouds. And when it comes in, the clouds are sideways. So I need to rotate that. And I can do that with these buttons over here. So when I rotate this, I'm going to drop the strength to 0. Let's bring it up a bit. Something like that. Again, I'm just looking for body. I'm going to use my masking bug out the foreground, and then use the brush to quickly, just really, really quick and dirty, just paint out the structure here. I'm not going for anything elaborate. Oops, I don't want that. All right. Actually, I want to paint this, and I'm not happy with that. There we go. All right. With that done, this is going to be a really easy thing for me. I'm going to go to Add. I'm going to go to the Textures again, and I'm going to look for something to give me a look, something maybe like brownie. I love textures on images, so you can see what this does here is that it adds a wonderful, let me zoom out just so you can see the whole image. I'm going to scale out, and you can see that we're getting this just awesome look to the image, and you can stack textures on top of each other. So if I go and grab that same texture that Ryan used before, the rice paper light, I stretch it out so I don't get those dark borders. And then I take the blending mode to darken and then just drop the overall strength out. I mean, look at that. That just looks, to me, that looks awesome. Comparing the before and the after. You know, textures are a fun thing to use when you just, look, this shot was sitting on my computer since 2004. Didn't see the light of day. I'm actually kind of happy with this shot. There are a bunch of things I would do, like maybe add a glow, my deep forest glow that I love so much. Put it below the textures. Now we just need to turn everything back on. And then take my deep forest glow, and I'm just going to drop it down a bit. There we go. So what I did was I put the glow below all the layers under it, all the texture layers under it, because I do like what it did here. And you can see the before and the after. I would probably do some more to this, But I just wanted to show you really quickly just how easy it is to have fun with the images. Don't just let your travel images, you spent probably a lot of money traveling to these places, and your gear costs a lot of money, so don't just let the images sit there. You know, I could have easily said, you know what, this sky is awful. There's nothing I need to do. But in actuality, I know how to use my tools that I have, and I'm able to create something like this. You can see that there's a semblance of a sky. We gave it a dirty look, and then we warmed up that dirty look with the rice paper texture. So that's kind of how it is.